Hello, thank you for joining us today. My name is Brandy, and I'm a career facilitator here at Goodwill Columbus in the Workforce Development Department. And today we have a very special guest closing us out for Women's Month. I am speaking to the former CEO of Goodwill Columbus, Marjory Pizzuti, and I will let her introduce herself.
Thank you, Brandy, and I am honored and privileged to be wrapping up this month's programming. So thank you so much for including me. As Brandy said, I just retired from 15 years at this beloved organization, Goodwill Columbus. Friday was my last day as CEO. We have a new CEO that began Monday, Ryan Burgess, who is extraordinary and will be a terrific leader, taking our organization forward. I will be taking 3 weeks to onboard Ryan, and then I am going to move to my next chapter. I'm very excited in retirement, and those pages are blank right now on that next chapter, but I'll be filling them in fairly soon. So I am delighted to be here.
Excellent. I was just going to ask you what's next. So I guess we will find out soon what you have planned for retirement, because that is just amazing. Hopefully, like lots of beaches, traveling, relaxing.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my most important parts of retirement will be to spend some time on Sanibel Island. We have a place there on the west coast of Florida, off of Fort Myers. It is a slice of heaven on earth. So we're going to be spending, my husband and I are going to be spending much more time there. So for starters, that's one of the things that I'm planning on doing.
Take me with you.
You're about the sixth person that's asked me, so
so our first question for you will be, what brought you to Goodwill 15 years ago?
That's a great question. And it was a rather circuitous route from my very varied career and positions I was in. And so let me briefly tell you those, and then where I was before Goodwill, and that'll kind of answer the question about what brought me to this, as I said, this terrific organization. I'm a journalism major, journalism and American studies major, graduated from Kent State University, came to Columbus, and I had several positions in state government. And then I worked in the area of communications at several state agencies, and then at the Public Utilities Commission. And then I got a position at the Columbus Area Chamber of Commerce. Mm-hmm. And I was actually the first female vice president in 1983 that was hired at the Chamber of Commerce. Wow. And I was there for 5 years. I had a wonderful mentor, Al Dietzel, who had a long history of really recognizing the importance and the value of women as leaders. And so I was there for 5 years. And then I transitioned to become a deputy director in the Ohio Department of Development. And I worked under the CEO, Al Dietzel, because he became the director of development. And I had worked for many years with Dick Celeste, who actually ran for and became governor in 1982. And so I was at the state after being at the chamber. I was at the state of Ohio, positioning the state of Ohio for economic development and tourism marketing. And so I loved my job there. But then I left there when the governor finished his 2 terms, and I became a career consultant, and also then became the director of the quintessential Jubilee I became the executive director for the 500th anniversary of Columbus's voyages to the New World, the quincentennial celebration. Our
Wow.
city is the largest city in the world with the name Columbus. There's lots of cities, and we had a whole year of celebration. That's when Ameriflora, a major international flower show, came to Columbus. And then afterwards, when that was over, I actually became the startup CEO of an online information company that made public domain, public records accessible online. This was back in 1993, and when it was really difficult to utilize online services. Just think of what we have now, but back then it was very difficult. But I did that for about 3 years. And then I couldn't get passionate anymore about computers. And so I had an opportunity to join Children's Hospital, this most beloved institution in Central Ohio. And I became the senior vice president of marketing and community development for that organization, who has grown from 1995 until I left there, 2005, and even now has become the one of the highest ranked children's hospitals in the country.
Wow.
And I loved my time there. I was there for 10 years. I felt like I was going to remain there. And then I got a call from a executive search firm who was what's called sourcing me. I didn't apply for any jobs. And they called and said, we'd like you to consider a position as the new president and CEO for Goodwill Columbus. I'm thinking, wow, I never thought about doing that.
Uh-huh.
I decided, and this will be one of my sort of guiding principles for women when we get into the conversation a little more. You know, I decided, why not? I was 55 years old at the time, and I knew if I had one more career reinvention left in me, this might be it, to be the CEO of a nonprofit organization.
Yes.
And so I went through the interview process and I was hired. And that was it.
Wow.
Yeah. And so just serendipitous. So my career has been circuitous and in many cases serendipitous. And that's what brought me to Goodwill. And I was equally as passionate about Goodwill's mission as I was about Children's Hospital's mission, and about the mission in the state of Ohio and the city of Columbus to really position those places as visitor and business destinations. And I have been absolutely privileged and honored to spend the last 15 years as Goodwill's leader as we work to transform lives for individuals with disabilities and other barriers through pathways to independence and the power of work. So that's a long answer to a short question. So I decided to go for it, and the interactions I've had over the last 15 years with individuals across the board, particularly those with developmental disabilities, has been a gift to me.
How do you feel like your trajectory was impacted by being a woman, or do you feel like you experienced any barriers?
Well, that's another good question. And because I shared my career journey with you over about 45 years, it was an evolving, I believe, issue for me. So back in the mid 70s and even early 80s, I did not per se feel like I experienced barriers on my career path. I obviously, in the last 10, 15 years or so, I think that playing field has leveled somewhat. But in those earlier years, I did feel as though I had to perform better and I had to be better as a leader in order to not have that issue of my gender be an issue. There were, there were perceived notions and ideas about women in leadership roles.
Mhm.
Had very supportive, I had very supportive leaders who hired me and supported me in many, many ways, and was able, if there were any issues or questions, which there rarely were, they had my back.
Right.
And so I really did not experience any real overt barriers that prevented me from moving forward on my career path. And I'm fortunate. And part of it is because I had, as I said, I had individuals that were my leaders that really supported me.
Right. Well, thank you for being open and honest about that. It's always great to have people in your corner to support you. I think that's really important, especially if you are like a woman navigating the workforce, right? So that's whether you are working in retail or whether you are on the corporate side. I think that's really important. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And
And I would emphasize, to your point, it is really imperative that you find mentors, that in particular women find mentors that can help guide them through their path and feel comfortable about doing that, because that has helped me along the way in so many ways. So if you don't have mentors, find those mentors and they can guide you as well.
thank you. Excellent. I totally agree with that. Okay, so you talked about getting mentors, especially as a woman, like as you were going on your career path. Um, do you have anybody in particular that you can think of who really inspired you, specifically like a woman?
Yeah, there are so many. The one, though, that had the most profound impact on my life and on my perspective of myself and what I was capable of doing was my mother, actually. I was born and raised in New York on Long Island,
Mhm.
and my mother owned her own business in the early 60s. When it was very rare for women to own their own businesses. She was an interior designer. She had gone to the interior design school in New York,
Mhm.
and she operated an interior design and antique collector shop, and
Mhm.
she was incredible. So she worked and she operated that business, and equally as important, she started and led an organization um, in our community that was called the Nassau Center. That's on Long Island for what that time was called emotionally disturbed children. It actually
Wow.
is a residential facility. You would diagnose those children now as autistic, but in those days, that's what they called it, and that was the diagnosis. She raised millions of dollars for this residential facility. Um, she became an expert, and she had so much passion for giving back and paying forward and service that I believe that had both that and the fact that she was so independent, and she always
Mhm.
shared with me every single time in any way she could that I could do anything I wanted to do and be anybody I wanted to be. And those two things really stayed with me, particularly in terms of what my career was and my career of service for so long and throughout my years of work. So she's really the person who did that for me. And the weird irony is that one of the things she did to raise money was operated a thrift shop where she
Wow.
yes, okay, so talk about serendipitous, to talk about things going around and coming around. And I used to help her in that thrift shop. So people would come and buy gently used items, and that would generate dollars for for the Nassau Center. And just when I think about it, it makes me think about her. She's passed away, but makes me think about how proud she would be that I'm in an organization where we operate gently used clothing stores. And that's sort of an interesting connection.
What work have you done in your time at Goodwill that you feel like is the most rewarding?
Oh, wow. There's a lot that makes me feel really gratified in terms of what we've accomplished together over the last 15 years. I say to folks that it takes a village to run a nonprofit. And so while I'm the CEO, I think the collective work that we've done at Goodwill is a reflection upon all hands on deck, and this notion of one Goodwill that I talk about a lot. Several of the more satisfying parts of what I have done here, along with a lot of other folks. One is the major renovation, the $10 million capital campaign that we raised money for to transform our Edge Hill offices. We renovated back in 2006 and 2007 after that successful campaign to raise 10 million, more than we'd ever raised before. We transformed 130,000 square feet of space at our Edge Hill location. And it really repositioned us to do the mission work that we needed to do, both in workforce and in our developmental disabilities day programs. We started our art studio and gallery really took off from those from the beginning of that renovation. And I think it really did an exceptional job of repositioning us, and also honoring and respecting both our employees and our clients and the visitors who came to Goodwill, because it was such a striking renovation of our facilities. And that's one thing that I'm really very proud of. I'm also exceedingly proud of that the work we've done together to really break down silos. Every organization and every company has silos where people really just are focused in on their one area. And I believe we've come an incredibly long way in breaking down those silos and working together collaboratively throughout our organization. And I think that has been very rewarding. And the outcomes of that, I think in terms of our own staff feeling more gratified and valued, and our clients and the people that we serve feeling that we're providing the best services we can, and that we understand and respect each of our roles in the organization, throughout the organization. So that breaking down of silos is something that I'm very proud of. And I think our organization is in a much better place and even better positioned to achieve our big goal of equipping 100,000 individuals with the tools to advance them on a pathway to economic mobility through the power of work. I think that it will take all of us, and that we want to do that by 2030. So in the next decade, we really want to make that difference. And I think we're positioned really well to do that. One of the other major initiatives that I'm really proud of, and again, it took a lot of work from many folks, is what we've done to transition the individuals that we've been serving in facility-based programs, adults with developmental disabilities, transitioning those individuals into integrated community settings. so that they can live their best lives and learn, grow, and advance like everyone else. They deserve to. And
Yes.
we've created that that real culture and a changed the paradigm for those individuals going forward. And I think that will make such a difference, not only in the lives of those individuals and their family members, but also the general population who can much more up close and personal experience someone that may look different than them. And that's the definition of diversity and tolerance. And I think that we are going to move our community and ultimately our country in that direction by breaking down that barrier of having individuals in facility-based settings. So that's another thing. It's still a work in progress, but that's another thing that I'm really proud of. And again, it took a lot of work by a lot of people to make that happen.
Yes. Yes. And I love how you're saying you're proud of it and it hasn't happened all the way just yet. Like that's vision to me, you know, that is speaking it to existence. Like by 2030, we are going to complete this, even though, you know, you're no longer CEO, but you still have like that vision and speaking like truth to power. So I
Yeah.
love that.
Well, thank you. It's about legacy.
Yes.
And you're right. It's about both changing the paradigm and having that vision.
Yes.
Because you know, we all know that a mission is why we exist, and our vision is what we aspire to be. And
Right.
the vision of both giving individuals a hand up from a economic mobility perspective, so that they can earn a living wage and be economically self-sufficient, as well as moving individuals with developmental disabilities into the community. Both of those things are works in progress, and I believe that we will achieve that goal down the road.
Right. And so you mentioned a little bit about barriers. So what advice would you give to women coming up after you who may be facing barriers or may not, but do you have any general advice for them, for those women in the next generation?
No, I'm going to give I'm going to give you and your listeners 3 pieces of advice when you're moving on your pathway from a career perspective. And it actually is something that is important, whether it's in your personal life and especially throughout your career. The first is to be authentic, is to really know who you are and be authentic and communicate authentically. Because in a world where everything seems to be dominated by 30-second segments, and we are oftentimes defined by others, you need to define yourself, and you need to move forward and define who you are. And being authentic is really a part of that. So find your true north, your own true north that centers you, and always be authentic about that, because I think that's important. As I said a minute ago, it's so easy to think that you have to be what others think you should be, and you need to embrace who you are and be authentic. The second one, and you can see it in what I've shared with you, is to follow your passion. It may take some time, and you heard about my circuitous career route, but find something that makes your toes tap, from a career perspective especially. And it may take a little bit of time to explore that. And it may mean that you have to make some moves, and you may have to pivot, like you did when you told me about your career, quite
Yes.
frankly. You're my model, quite frankly, Brandy, because you just need to make sure that what you're doing, not every day makes your toes tap, but you really need to find that passion and explore it, because life's too short, not, and you're spending a lot of time where you work and where what your career is. So find that passion. And the final one, the third one is, it's along those lines, but it's take calculated risks. It's scary to move out of your comfort zone, and you did it too, right?
Yes.
And so I say calculated risks because, you need to think through and be thoughtful about a change you're going to make or something you're going to do differently, but really take those calculated risks and find those times when you need to move out of your comfort zone, and it will serve you well. As one final point, I would say, and this has been what has grounded me my entire life, and my mother gave me these roots. Always be committed to service. Marian Wright Edelman, who was the founder of the Children's Defense Fund, who gave voice to children, because children don't have a voice because they don't vote, and so they're kind of disenfranchised. She wrote a book, and you've probably heard, It Takes a Village. She wrote a book about that. She says that service is the rent we pay for living. It's not just something you do in your spare time, but it's something that you should always be doing. I love that service is the rent we pay for living. So when you're doing whatever your work is, from a career perspective, please be mindful of always giving back and paying forward to the community, because service is so important to all of us.
Honestly, I don't even know what to say. I feel like speaking with you was just confirmation for me that I am doing what I am supposed to be doing.
Good for you.
This is just like confirmation for me. And like I said, I hope our viewers are getting lots out of this as well. And so thank you again for coming to join us. Thank you for taking your time out of your day. Any last thoughts as you depart Goodwill?
Oh, I'll tell you, it has been quite a ride, and a fabulous ride at that, as my whole career has been. My family grounds me every day, so make sure that that is a pivotal part of who you are and what you do. My husband and my daughter and my son and my son-in-law and my daughter-in-law and my fabulous 6-year-old granddaughter. You clear away the underbrush of life, and that's really what it's all about. And so that's part of what I'm really looking forward to spending time doing. I feel so honored and so privileged to have taken this journey in my career and in my life. So I leave at peace with myself. That's all there is.
Well, thank you so much, Margie, for joining us. And for our viewers out there, if you enjoyed this conversation and our previous conversations all throughout the week, please don't forget to check out the banner below and like, comment, and subscribe on our Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And if you have any questions, don't forget to leave a comment or reach out to us via phone, because we want to help you find your path and get you connected to a job or your next best job. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.